I'm Jimmy.
We are Two Average Guys. Good to have you back here today. Very excited to talk about the Huskers' loss, unfortunately to Oklahoma. Although it was a loss, I think we have a lot of good takeaways from this game. So, Jimmy, what was your overall impression of the game?
Well, for starters, the outcome was much closer, much better than I was anticipating, which is a huge positive.
Yeah.
Going on the road to the number 3 team. Now, are they the number 3 team? I don't know, but still, at this point in time, they are the number 3 team. And we showed up, especially on defense. Defense was fantastic, kept us in the game. Adrian Martinez had maybe his best game that I can remember him having overall. Yes, he didn't have any 75-yard touchdown runs or anything like that, but managed the game really well, threw a lot of good passes.
Yeah.
He took a couple sacks or quite a few quarterback hurries because, one of our weakness, offensive line, was not helping him out much in that aspect. But overall, it felt good after the game, but at the same time, it was still another heartbreaker because we had a chance.
Yeah.
And a couple of miscues, bad offensive line play, special teams again, come back to bite us. So.
Yeah, no, I think, and Ross, Nathan says, Frost had a good game plan. I agree with that. And Ross asked who called the offense, Frost or Lubick. I don't know. It's tough. I don't know. There's been games where Frost said, yeah, it was me calling plays. And, I think we brought Lubick in to be that offensive coordinator and help our wide receivers. And so I don't know if he's not calling the offense, then why is he there? Unless he is just helping the wide receivers as a wide receivers coach. But I bet Frost had a lot to do with that game plan. We saw some option plays. I think he called it a smart game plan. If he's the one whoever called the game plan, it was a team effort, whatever. The game plan was solid. We came in there. We had some long, deep passes and more than one. I think we had 3 or 4 really deep passes into coverage where our receivers beat them. Betts, that was one of the best throws Adrian's probably had in his career.
Was awesome. The touchdown to Omar Manning was awesome.
Absolutely. We got 2 Rosses on the show. Welcome both. I think, overall, Martinez played a great game. Adrian was fantastic. Defense was absolutely fantastic. You talk about Oklahoma, they talk about the air raid offense, they talk about how good they are.
5-play touchdown drives,
Yep.
long plays. That first, it felt good off the bat. I know they scored a touchdown on their first drive, but it was a 7-minute drive. It's like 15 plays. We made them earn it. And I was like, man, if that's how we are able to play this game and we get a couple of stops because they got a 3rd and 11, they got a 3rd and 7, and they didn't have too many big plays on that drive. Man, if we can limit them to that and get some stops, we might be able to hang around in this game. And we did.
I think we made it into a Big Ten game.
Yeah.
In Big 12, you see a lot of fast scores. You see a lot of plays that go for long distance and really short drives. And we started the second half, and we had the ball for 6 minutes, I think, or almost 6 minutes to start the second half. So I think
and then we come away with no points, but
I think we made it our game. We made them play Big Ten football instead of playing Big 12 football, and that was something that they struggled with. They struggled with their defensive line. They struggled with their defensive scheme. Shenander, for how much crap he has taken over the last 4 years,
especially the first year, he's really turned it around.
How can you not say he is the most improved coach on this team?
100%.
From coaching from the defensive line to the linebackers to the corners to the safety, the entire defense is absolutely stellar. And not to just mention the entire defense, look at the guys that came in as backups. Cam Taylor got hurt. We had we had Clark come in.
Braxton Clark. And he should have had an interception, man.
Yeah, Farmer played a little bit as well. Quentin Newsom was
had an awesome game.
Quentin Newsom was on their best player, number 11 for Oklahoma, and he played by far played probably better than you'll see any Big 12 corner play on number 11. That number 11 was a beast.
Yeah, he was really good.
And Newsom played fantastic.
It's kind of funny because, if this game would have happened maybe year 1 or year 2 under Frost, I feel like he probably would have played more of a Big 12 game.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how they played at UCF in the American Athletic Conference. That was kind of how they played. It's funny that something's changed to where they made it into a Big 10 game. And that kind of gives me a little bit of hope that, you know, we might actually be able to beat some of these Big 10 teams that just 2 weeks ago we weren't sure that we were going to be able to hang with.
Yeah.
So,
and you go back to week 1, and we've said it more than once, the Illinois game, that's a killer.
it is a killer because Illinois has lost every game since.
And they're not good. They are not good. That football game on Thursday night or
Against
Friday
Maryland?
night, that was awful.
Yeah.
That was both teams were awful. So that still just stings that we lost to them. But we still have to just move forward and improve every game. And
we do.
And like Jonathan said, you know, defense has shown steady progress every year. And I'd say maybe not even steady progress. I think from year 2 to year 3 we jumped big time. But year 3 of this year, I mean, absolutely. I see just a huge difference in the confidence on the defense. A lot of it has to do with age and experience.
Right.
But we're getting guys in there like Nick Heinrich. We're getting
He's
guys in
been
there like
playing
Quinn
awesome.
Newsome and Braxton Clark and Farmer.
When he's not getting held.
Yeah, and we're seeing guys get in there that are making a difference now year 1 rather than it's taking them 2-3 years to make a difference on the field. And that's, to me, that's exciting as a Blackshirt defense. A lot of people were pissed about the Blackshirts being handed out before the season began. I get it. But look at the guys who got the Blackshirts. Look how they're playing.
Yeah.
They're playing like Blackshirts.
You know, we typically know, or at least myself, I know you're the same way, typically know like majority of the players on the team, you know, by name. I can name every single player on the defense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably the first year I can say that. Like, that I know. And I could give you their jersey number, I could tell you, you know. And shoot, even the other day, my wife was like, we were talking about something and I was like, can you name 5 Husker players? And she named 5 Husker players and 4 of them were from defense.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so since we're on the subject of defense, we're going to switch over to offense. So we got some comments and questions about the offense. So offensive line is a joke, says Ross. Big isn't always better. They look lost. In times they do. I think our offensive line is our big weakness on the offense.
And is it coaching? You know, is it a combination of coaching, youth? I mean, Turner Corcoran was one of the top 5 offensive lineman recruits, or something like that, in the country, coming out of high school, out of, you know, Lawrence and Kansas, and we got him. And I'm not saying that he hasn't been good. It's just kind of as a collective whole, the offensive line just hasn't been great.
Yeah, I mean, we're letting guys fly free. We're not picking up blitzes. If we have a running back in, the running back's not always picking up the blitz, but I see multiple times yesterday where Adrian's getting charged at, and you have 2 offensive linemen blocking the same guy while the other guy comes free.
And there was a couple of videos going around on Twitter of someplace like that.
Well, and Ethan Piper got busted up on that special teams block kick. I mean, he just got shoved down. I mean, you can blame
and he's actually been pretty good for the last couple of years, so I don't know what's going on.
And you can't blame the kicker on that. I mean, he may have picked a little,
well,
but the guy was right in his face anyway.
That's another topic, because, I mean, I understand Culp has been pretty bad, but
we'll get there.
Do we really need to bring in a backup kicker for an extra point? I mean,
maybe we do. I mean,
maybe we do.
Again,
and I'm not saying
Ethan Piper got blown up, so that's why
really his fault.
So I think our offense, the weak point is definitely offensive line, 100%. They looked great at times yesterday, and then they didn't look great. And when they didn't look great, that's when you see Martinez. Martinez is the most athletic quarterback, one of the top athletic quarterbacks in the country, and definitely the most athletic in the Big Ten. You can fight me on that. I will throw fists with you over and over again. He's leading the Big Ten in passing this year as far as yards per play. He's the best. I think he's the best in the Big Ten. And you can say Stroud is better. No, he's not. You can say that this guy's better. No, he's not. Sean Clifford is not better. Adrian Martinez is the guy that has to scramble every damn play because our offensive line is not blocking for him on the passing. Well, and he gets away and scrambles for how many yards before the pass.
You know,
it's incredible.
The last 3 weeks, you know, you're playing Illinois, you're playing Fordham, and you're playing Buffalo. And that's why Martinez, I feel like, was able to have some long runs.
Yeah.
That's not really going to happen against a team like Oklahoma. I know that their defense isn't always their strong suit, but they have athletes.
It's their strong suit now.
They have athletes that are not going to allow a 75-yard quarterback scramble. So that's obviously why we didn't see too many of those yesterday. And, you know, a couple times, you know, he did reach out for the first down, which they didn't call, and they reviewed it. rightfully so, they got the right call. But he was protecting himself a little bit. There was a time where he gave up a few yards just to kind of tuck it and go out of bounds, and that's fine. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, no, I think, Scott Frost, Amber says leave him alone. He can call the plays, but we got to be able to execute. And yes, it's both.
Yeah,
It has been a big argument on social media too, is the play calling and the execution. Is it the coaching? Is it the execution? It's both. I mean, if you've ever played any sport, you can be told over and over again. You can practice over and over again. If you don't go out and execute what you've been doing in practice, then that's on the player. And then people are like, well, why aren't they being taken out of the game? Well, it's the same argument of why don't you have Manning and Betts on the field all the time? If they give you the best chance to win the game, well, that's why these offensive linemen aren't taken out if they make a mistake, because they probably give us the best chance to win the game, would be my guess.
Well, and it has been interesting too. And I know I texted you something during the game. Just kind of the way we use the running backs. I mean, obviously, I haven't heard anything about Gabe Irvin, but that was pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
When he went down, he may be out for a while, but which is too bad because true freshman, getting his first couple touchdowns last week.
Yeah.
But anyway, we come out the gate with Ramir Johnson, and it's like, I can understand that, I guess, from a coaching standpoint of they've been watching film on Irvin, they've been watching film on Morrison, maybe even Step, and he come out with Ramir, and he was running hard, and he was getting a little bit more daylight than some of those backs have done.
He was running guys over, and Dan says, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Dan says, it's Frost's job to put us in the best position to win the game, and at times his play calling doesn't do that, and he's continually outcoached. He's been outcoached quite a bit. I would agree with that. I think yesterday he outcoached Lincoln Riley. Again, it was special teams, and the extra point is really why we lost that game. That's why we won. And you can say offensive line, throw them in there too. If we get better blocking, we have better runs and better pass protection where Adrian's able to go through his progression. When he was able to go through his first, second, third look, he was able to hit passes. But if he only can get to his first look before getting hit, no quarterback can do what Adrian's doing while having to rush out of the pocket. And someone mentioned that's when he's at his best, is when he's running out of the pocket. And unfortunately, yes, you're right. But we don't want him to scramble all the time. That's not what he shouldn't be running for his life every play.
No. Well, and you said you think that Frost potentially outcoached Lincoln Riley. And I mean, if you really take a look at it, I mean, Spencer Rattler, supposed to be a Heisman candidate, their top 3 team in the country, playing at home against the big underdog, and he didn't perform. He really didn't. He had a couple of quarterback keepers. They got first downs in kind of big spots, but that was really about it. Aside from that first drive, he was like 6 of 6, 7 of 7, whatever, like 70 yards, and then he didn't really have much after that. I mean, here and there, but really, either our defense is really, really good, which I think they are really good, or maybe Oklahoma really isn't that great. I'd like to think that our defense just is that good.
A combination of both.
And we just rattled Rattler, if you will.
Rattler, yeah. Listen, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say, I mean, the guy's kind of a baller, and we kept him in check.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
He's generally a guy that can throw the ball downfield. They have wide receivers that can go downfield. We stopped them from doing their deep threat yesterday. We kept them in short yardage. They did a good job of distributing the ball short as well, and their run game is usually pretty stout.
And it was decent.
And their running game wasn't bad. They still averaged, I think, 5 yards a carry. But, again, our defense was doing good enough on the back end, and throughout the entire game, our defense was great to win that game. And their defense played well enough, too, to help them win that game. It came down to special teams. It came down to special teams.
That linebacker, number 11, that they had, that was spying Adrian, he was a stud.
Well, they didn't start spying him right away because he stopped being able to get out of the pocket and run the ball because he was being spied more often throughout the game. So their defensive game plan was, again, just like Illinois, stop Adrian. And every team's going to be that way. You have to stop Adrian because he's the guy that's going to make plays happen on the offense. And we talked about it last week, week 4. He has to take over every game.
He did yesterday.
And he did yesterday. He's going to have to do it down the road unless we see extreme improvement from the offensive line.
I mean, I know we only scored 16 points, and we had some missed field goals, and obviously the missed extra point taken for 2, but only giving up 23 points. What would they say? That was 68 game streak?
63, I've seen 63, 65, 68. It's been 5 years.
Yeah, it's
So
been since
five-
2017.
It's been at least 60 games. Let's
That
say
they
2016.
didn't score.
Against Ohio State, I think.
Or was it 2015?
I think 2015 or 16 they scored 24.
Anyway.
I think. Either way, it's been
Irrelevant.
a long time.
It's been a long time. Yeah. No, that was great.
And if you pay attention to Oklahoma at all over the past years, when they've been good again, they're putting up points. And they put up points fast, and we showed them a different defense that they don't see in the Big 12, and that was the difference in that game and and even Lincoln Riley said it threw them off. Their defense was that good. Multiple guys are calling out our defense, saying how good they were yesterday to slow down the offense of OU.
Well, it's
That's
funny
what they had to do.
because I don't think you watch Big Game Kickoff, but you know, they got Brady, Quinn, and Bush and Leinart and Bob Stoops. And Bob Stoops puts on his Beat Nebraska hat, whatever.
Yeah.
It was all fun and games, whatever. But he was the first one that was like, I think this game is going to be closer than people think. And then they all picked Oklahoma by 17, Oklahoma by 24, or whatever. But I mean, if you thought about it at that point, I think I even said something to you. I mean, 17 with like a late touchdown is a lot closer of a game than people would think.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, it wasn't even like that. It was a 7-point game.
Yeah.
And we had the ball. And that was tough too because we had the ball and obviously we had a minute and no timeouts. But you can't take a sack. And they brought the house twice.
So here's the yes, you can't take a sack. I agree with that. And as a veteran QB, you know to throw the ball away. But he also wasn't outside the tackle box.
And he didn't have time.
He didn't have anybody in the area. He was trying to go deep. And so at that point, it's a tough decision. What do I do here? He didn't have time to throw the ball. So again, our offensive line, they brought the blitz. They brought multiple guys. They did what they had to do to stop us on that last drive. And again, a minute left. It would have been great to go down and score a touchdown, or it just didn't happen. But we had a chance, and it's happened more than once where we've had a chance to go. We've had the ball last drive of the game where we just haven't gotten it done. And I think we showed a lot yesterday. And there's two different types of people. There are the actual Husker fans who are like us. We're trying to be more realistic rather than just 100% optimistic all the time now. But yesterday I told a buddy of mine, I'm like, I have hope. I wouldn't say optimistic, I had hope for yesterday because I feel like the talent is there.
Right, and we didn't have anything to lose. I mean, the guys come out, and play relaxed. And I think they did. And, especially, like we said, with this whole defense thing, I mean, it kind of reminds me of when we lost to Texas in the Big 12 championship back in 2009. How good was the defense then? And it was just like, man, how can you not, on the offensive side, see how does that not pump you up so much that you just go out and blow somebody up?
Yep.
And that's what I kind of hope we see moving forward. The offensive line, we talked about it every single week we've done the show. They have to get better.
Yep. So Ryan from, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, said he has faith now. So he's got faith now and that we're going to win more games. And again, I think yesterday was a true testament to some of those improvements we made. Again, Adrian threw quite a few deep passes where he just connected on the dot. I mean, those were fantastic passes. He didn't have really a horrible pass the majority of the game.
Well,
that interception was a 4th and 18 because we couldn't kick the ball.
And that worked like a punt. And it just shows you how kids are nowadays, that everybody's looking for clout. You got to have a one-handed interception and cost your team 23 yards and literally almost, gave the ball back to Nebraska because they were pinned so deep they couldn't do anything.
Yep. Hey,
they had the ball
it was the
25.
catch of the year.
It was a cool ass
According
catch.
to
I'm not
every
saying that it wasn't.
media outlet, the catch of the year.
It was pretty funny because, and I talked about it, but you turn on the Penn State Auburn game last night, and they're showing some highlights of the big games of the day, and that's the only play they showed from the Nebraska.
They showed.
Are you absolutely kidding me?
They showed their second touchdown. They showed the blocked punt or the blocked special teams kick, and then they showed the interception. That's it. They didn't show the great stuff. Again, I get it. We're not winning games. We're not a huge. No one cares about Nebraska right now because we're not winning games. So they're not going to show us because we're not on the national stage. It is what it is. But a couple dimes dropped. The number 1 interception of the year, by the way. Yeah, Ryan. And guess what? It was a great interception. It really was. But again, you lost them 23 yards. But it didn't, you could have, and even Lincoln Riley's like, yeah, I wish you would have knocked it down rather than catching the ball.
Lincoln Riley said he was thinking about challenging it.
Yeah.
To make sure that it was a
Make
catch.
sure
And he said, I would have been the first coach ever to challenge an interception.
Yeah.
And it would have made sense if he did, because they could have got the ball at the 25.
Yeah, and I saw Ross mention that. Word is Irvin has dislocated knee out for the season. Again, that looked pretty nasty. It made me think of
That's a bummer.
the Minnesota running back. What's his Ibrahim when he definitely popped his Achilles.
Man,
so
that's a bummer. I mean, I know we got plenty of other backs, but I was really liking Irvin, and it would have been nice to have a kid play for 4 years.
You mentioned Ramir. Ramir did great.
Yeah, he did.
I thought that Sevion was out there more than he was, but he only had one carry, and the one carry I thought was good. But again, we have to establish. I'd like to see one guy out there being the guy and having two. We talked about it with Adam Carrick. We're like, let's have a 1 and a 2 punch, not rotate 5 guys in. We didn't see Marvin Scott. I don't even think he traveled with the team. Marquise Stepp, if he was there, he didn't even step on the field. Is he injured? I don't know. Frost says he's not talking about injuries. So if Stepp is injured, maybe that's why he didn't play. But again, he didn't step on foot on the field. I have to assume he's injured.
I don't know. It was good to see, both Vokalek, who hadn't played yet this year, and Austin Allen back. I did not expect Austin Allen to be back. And he had a couple catches, couple third down.
He got hit really hard in the middle of the field.
He got, man, I mean, he's 6'9", he's just a big guy. I feel like he's always going to kind of be a little nicked up because there's just so much to him that you lay a hit on the guy, and I mean, something's going to get hurt just because he's such a big body going down. But there was one pass Adrian had to him in the end zone, and it just went a little bit over. But he put it where he needed to. I mean, in his hands was where he needed it to be, but he just put it a little bit higher than that. But if he would have gone any lower than that, it probably would have been intercepted, or at least knocked away. So, I mean, gosh, it was close. It probably obviously a little bit overthrown, but better that than the alternative.
Yeah.
But what were you going to say about it?
And it's so funny, I was just going to comment the exact same thing. My dad and I were watching the game, and as Martinez threw that pass, I'm getting hopeful that Allen's going to catch it. It goes just a little bit. He might even tipped it a little bit. And then we looked at each other, and we're like, he put it in the best spot possible to give his receiver a chance.
Right.
It was a little high. But again, that is, I think, how if you want to evaluate Martinez, evaluate a throw like that to where he's not putting it in the hands of the defenders, he's putting it towards tight end
and take that back 3 years ago, and where's that ball?
Even last year, 2 years ago, he didn't have the confidence he had his freshman year. So I think you're seeing he's a smart kid.
No, let's talk about him for a second here. Are they technically calling him a junior?
He still has 1 more year.
Yeah, come back next year.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I would, honestly, I'd love to see him. I think if he's back,
I know
if he's back
2 weeks ago, people would have said no, but
if he's back with an improved offensive line, hell yeah, come on back. But I also think if he doesn't, I get it, and you still got Smothers and Harburg behind him. I still think we got to look at potentially a transfer QB to bring in with some experience.
Right, we talked about that.
That's the only reason why Martinez leaving is going to hurt, because we have 2 quarterbacks with no experience that are going to be playing now. Which every team goes through. You get a freshman quarterback or a sophomore quarterback starting that doesn't have that experience, but who knows? I think, and Ryan said too, he handled the game really well. He handled it perfect. He played a fantastic
And that's why, like you're saying, if he can come back next year with a bit more of an experienced offensive line, much improved, hopefully, then I think that could be pretty good. We'll see over the next 9 games.
Yeah.
Or 8 games, I guess. Big Ten play. We'll see. If my mind changes, but.
Yeah, Jonathan said that he thought he saw Stepp with a knee brace on the sideline. Again, I'd be surprised if he was there and didn't step foot on the field. That's the only thing I can think of is that.
He does, because
he had an injury in the spring.
Why do you have? And he did. You're right. I mean, why do you travel? Why do you take that guy with if he's not going to be able to play unless you're just hopeful that he could, and then he goes through warm-ups and then decides. Yeah, maybe that's good.
Could be. Ross Wheeler says that he gets a feeling that the Huskers play to their competition. I think a lot of teams do that.
I saw a lot of people saying, well, Oklahoma just played down, and it's like
maybe. Did they play down to Tulsa? Because you barely beat Tulane. Because you barely beat Tulane. Sorry, Tulsa's just been really good this year. So we're almost beating Notre Dame and then almost beating Ohio State. So
well, it was Toledo that almost beat
Oh, Toledo?
No,
Yeah, I'm getting my T's mixed up. Tulane, Toledo,
But
Tulsa. Those teams are balling.
They played Ohio State yesterday.
Yeah.
They played them pretty tight.
And they played them pretty tight. I mean, the score show's different because they had a couple late TDs, but I guess pick 6 and then a late TD. But really, I think all teams kind of do that. Maybe not on purpose. I think you prepare for teams differently, and you prepare for their strengths and their weaknesses. So sometimes you're not able to play to your strengths because of their strengths. So maybe you're a really good running team, but they have a really stout defensive line, and so you're better off throwing the ball more because their corners are a little weaker, or the linebackers are weaker, so you're going to do more tight ends or crossing routes, or you're going to run more of an option or run the outside the tackle type offense. So I think it's pretty common in college football that you see more and more nowadays because there's so much competition. There's so many good college football players. Even Buffalo, Coastal Carolina
They
is
only won
in the top 20.
They were ranked 16th.
Yeah, and they barely beat Buffalo. Buffalo threw 50 passes against us.
They threw 20.
The week before, they threw 19.
They threw 20 against Coastal Carolina.
And 20. So they had to throw the ball 50 times. So you have to change your game plan to who you're playing. And again, I think Scott Frost did that coming into this game. The game plan was a very solid game plan. The execution by our offensive line and special teams is what hurt us.
I will say, I felt different during the game yesterday than I have the rest of the season. I mean, we watched that Illinois game together, and it was just like, every other play was just like, oh, whether we were on offense or defense, it was like, oh. And then the Fordham game early on, it was frustrating.
Early, yeah.
And then Buffalo, obviously, with just so many miscues and leaving 30 points, off the board. I didn't really feel that way yesterday. I know, I got a little frustrated on some of the 3rd and long conversions that Oklahoma got, but for the most part, I wasn't. I didn't have that same frustrated feeling.
Yeah.
It was more like, man, we're hanging around. We're hanging around. We got a shot, and that's what I'm hoping I feel for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Instead of just frustration and disappointment, I want to feel positive.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's what that game, and I think one of the Rosses said earlier, if you don't see the improvement from the team.
I did see that.
At that point yesterday in the game, if you don't see the improvements we made, then you're blind. You are not paying attention. And that's what I was saying earlier about social media. You have the people that are just never happy. Mm-hmm. We win a game, it was just Fordham, it was just Buffalo. And then we lose a game by 7 to the number 3 team in the country.
On the road.
No, we suck, fire Frost. And they're like, oh, Oklahoma just didn't play a good game.
Oh, Martinez was terrible. How could you possibly say that?
You can't make Husker fans, all of Husker fans, happy. Majority of, and we've talked about it before, we lose a game, we have almost 7,000 views on our show, and we lose a game. We win a game,
and we have 1,000,
maybe 2,000 at most.
Yeah.
So people are happier to bitch about losing,
I guess,
than happier to talk about a winning team. And so
I didn't look much around on social media, a little bit, but not much. Yeah. Most of it was pretty positive, especially national media wise. People were saying Nebraska really played well. They showed up a lot better than expected. Whatever.
They're 22 points.
But then there's people that are also, like you said, just so negative. And then some of them are obviously just trolls, like Iowa fans or Colorado fans or somebody.
What's funny is Iowa fans have actually been, from what I've seen on Twitter, for the most part, they take slight jabs, but they've been pretty kind lately. I think because they beat us 6 times in a row, they're starting to feel
and
bad.
they also are ranked in the top 5, and they don't want to have it flipped reversed on them, if they lose a couple games. Yeah. So, but it's also it seems like there's people that just go on to every site and just want to literally want to stir the pot, and they don't have a dog in the fight, and they just want to say, and especially against Nebraska fans, because everybody knows how die-hard people are.
But they're cynical.
And they are 100%.
Yeah.
So I try to stay away from it because it just makes my blood boil.
Someone asked about Martinez, if he stays, does Smothers or Harburg do they transfer?
I would say Heinrich Harburg would not, because he's gonna.
I would say Smothers would not.
I don't think he would either.
He's technically still a freshman.
Yeah.
Because of COVID. So
Yeah.
he could still be starting
for 3 years.
For 3 years. So I think he's in a good spot.
Well.
Yeah, but either way, like 2 or 3 years. So I think they both stay, but I also just kind of think it depends. It depends if Martinez comes back. It depends on the outlook. Like, hey, how good are we? And am I going to get some playing time in these games? And it's going to be a hard decision, I think, as well, because if Martinez leaves, it's Smothers' team. I still think maybe we look for a transfer QB, but it's got to be Smothers' team.
Yeah, it's no, it's going to be real interesting because I mean, if you're Martinez, you're not going to get drafted. You're not going to sign a free agent at this point, unless you have a free rest of the season.
Yeah.
And even then, it's a stretch. So why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Especially with NIL, and this is, you know, he's been the guy here. He'd be the guy here for more years than anyone ever.
Yeah. No,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Especially in Nebraska.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know.
Some other comments. Ryan says, the team shows up the rest of the year this way, then college football world better look out. I think, again, if we continue to show what we did yesterday, Michigan State's going to be a tough game. Michigan State's been playing good so far. Their lines are pretty stout.
They're going to be ranked. The rankings are probably out.
They've had a good start. They've had a good start to the year, so they're going to be a tough team. Northwestern is garbage. My God, we better absolutely destroy Northwestern.
That's always a tough game.
Shut up. We better destroy them.
It's always a tough game.
Couple comments about Platt and Bob Stoops here.
Joe Platt just loves Nebraska.
He's telling Husker fans to be patient because of what he saw on the field yesterday. He even said, if you didn't see the improvement, then you're not paying attention.
And he said, we lost the game because of 2 missed field goals and a missed extra point taken for 2. That was a 4-point. It was a 4-point touchdown.
Yeah. It was.
I mean, and you lose the game by 7.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just really hard to swallow.
we left 8 points out there, or 7 points out there, and they gained 2. So we're up by 2 at that point, essentially. And that's potentially the difference in the game. So, I think we did earn some respect, Ross. Again, maybe not as much as we probably should have, because all the talk is, again, we're looking at ESPN, so they're going to choke on OU, but all they're saying is, they had a tough one and they squeaked it out. Like, that's as much as you're going to get out of the national media. But anybody paying attention knows that we earned some respect. Our black shirts are fantastic. Discipline and special teams absolutely need to clean it up. We had 4 or 5 penalties on the drive where we got our first field goal.
The first drive of the game.
Where we got 3 points on a 51-yard field goal.
We had 2 false starts before we even ran a play.
Yeah, and then we still got in field goal position.
And then we had a personal foul.
Mm-hmm. Another false start.
Another false start. Now, I don't know if you saw it. There was somebody else I talked to that said the same thing you did. That first call on Juergens was BS. Now, they didn't show the whole clip, but when they showed a replay of it, he kind of just hit the guy late or blocked him, and then looked like he kind of jumped on top of him, which the play was already away. Didn't really need to do that at that point. However, that second one that they called, he's 30 yards downfield. He doesn't know the play's not over. He's just pushing his guy, and pushes his guy
as soon as you hear the whistle.
And they call a personal foul on him. Yet their guys are holding our players the entire game. Not one holding call.
Follow Kenny Cheatham on on Twitter, and I've seen a couple other people post some replays. Cam Juergens, our offensive line, they were beasts yesterday. He even commented a couple times by the guys commenting on the game, is that they were playing nasty. They had a chip on their shoulder, and you could tell. It's like they felt the rivalry. Like, these kids were born.
Know nothing about it.
They don't even know what 9/11 is, really, but like, they were 2.
Some of them are 2 or 3. Some of those guys are 25, but 22 to 25.
4 or 5, whatever.
Some of those guys, some of those players were not even alive when Crouch threw the touchdown or caught the touchdown against Oklahoma in 0-1.
Yep.
So
I think again,
it was cool though to see.
The Cam Juergens second one was definitely BS. The first one, if he jumped on him, absolutely, go ahead and call that. But you have to stay consistent. I showed you a clip of
3 officials standing
in the end zone
where there's 2 Oklahoma guys grabbing Caleb Tanner, holding him.
Yep.
And then
they toss him. They push him after the whistle.
Throw him down at the end of the play. I mean.
And then you got Nick Heinrich in the middle on a run play. He's away from the play, trying to run towards the play, and the guy is holding him across his chest. And then after the whistle, throws him to the ground. And again, I told Jimmy, the refs. People say the refs aren't out to get us. Well, they sure as hell ain't helping us. They sure as hell aren't calling plays for us when we deserve to get the call because it's actually a penalty. Garrett Nelson, man, he is the definition of a current black shirt that I absolutely love. He is a guy
and he's finally figured it out. I liked him off the hop because I liked his just, run to the ball attitude. He kind of, I don't know, coaching must have gotten his head a little bit. He was kind of...
He started thinking
too much and breaking down and not really just going. He's going again.
And he got held.
And he got held a bunch.
Almost every play yesterday when he was rushing the quarterback and not a single call. And someone posted earlier today, in 4 games, we have 1 call for a holding on our linebacker or defensive line rushing the quarterback. 1 hold in favor of Nebraska. That was the same story over the last 4 years.
I watched the game the last 2 weeks with somebody that it doesn't really care too much, but he's like, I want that sack, baby. I want that Big Mac sack.
Yeah.
And Nebraska didn't get a sack in the last 2 games. You can't tell me that a quarterback doesn't throw the ball 50 times in a game, and we can't get to, there's not a single hold.
Yeah.
I mean.
And anybody, I know there's people on here that, between here and Twitter and all these other people that watch, they watch the games. They rewatch the games.
I rewatch the games.
Throughout the week, and they analyze the game. I guarantee you there's at least 5 or 6 holdings, clear holdings on Oklahoma's offensive line that were not called. Very clear. There's some other ones that guarantee there's at least 10, but 5 or 6 that are very clear that the refs did not call. And that, to me, that's the most frustrating part. If you're going to call the game, call it consistently. If you're going to call Cam Jurgens for finishing a play and pushing a guy, and the guy throwing his hands up in the air, falling backwards, as he's getting pushed backwards, his momentum's going to take him down to the ground. If you're going to call that, call it consistently throughout the game. Or guess what? It's not a penalty.
Yeah.
Don't call it. It's not a penalty at all. So don't call it. But we have Big Ten officiating, and they suck.
Was that Big Ten officiating, or was that Big 12?
Big Ten. But what I'm also seeing, Jimmy, it's not just Nebraska football that gets screwed. They're across the country. Refs have been awful.
Well, and
just not good.
I don't know if there's so many different rule changes every year or what, but it does seem like in almost every game I watch, there's a call that you're like, really? Or you're like, man, is that a new rule? Or is that like, what am I missing here?
Yeah.
And even like when they go to review sometimes, and I'm like, oh, there's no way that's not going to get overturned. And then they say call stands. It's like, how?
Yeah. And there's too many calls that are subjective, like targeting.
Yes.
I was showing you before the game, the Penn State game. I'm wondering which call you're talking about, Ross. Penn State. Oh, the punt on 3rd down. The refs, F them. Yeah, go. I watched the entire that game. There was calls that went Auburn's way. Penn State. That was a great game, by the way. If anyone didn't get to watch it, go
I didn't watch
it.
But
it was a great game. Great game for the night. The whiteout. It was fantastic.
Oh, the whiteout.
If you're somebody
awesome.
that I'm not going to share my views on COVID, but my God, there was a lot of people there.
And Penn State had somebody commit, and that's how you do it.
It was a huge crowd.
You do a night game, you do a whiteout, and that's how you get players to commit.
When was the last time we had an SEC team come and play the Mason-Dixie line?
Oh,
come and play the Mason-Dixie line, but to come and play a Big Ten team.
I think they said Auburn hadn't done that in like 20 years.
Yeah, and I would love to see more of that because the SEC, they're scared to come and play the Big Ten.
Well, it's funny.
But they're the best conference.
And what's funny is those games are always awesome.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be necessarily up to them. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they can figure this out, but let's get those games every week for the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season.
God, that was a fun game to watch. And you talk about officiating. There's one play where Bo Nix was running. It was late in the game. Bo Nix is running towards the sideline, and the guy starts to slow down. He has his hand on his shoulder. He didn't extend and push Bo Nix. But as they were outside, Bo Nix must have felt his hand or something, and Bo Nix just fell to the ground. Whoop, 15-yard penalty. And the guy's like, I didn't push him. I barely touched him, and Bo Nix just fell to the ground. And boom, 15-yard penalty. again, it's, and
Well,
like Brian said, the officiating across the league has been abysmal to say
well, and you said, or you showed me that video, because like I said, I didn't watch the whole game, but the guy stops the touchdown, but the guy's like on the ground going in, and he hits him, and they call it targeting.
And he led with his shoulder.
What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to let him score?
And apparently, according to the rule, as soon as the guy starts to go to the ground, at that point he's defenseless. As he's going to the ground, doesn't matter if he knows the hit's coming, doesn't matter if he can brace himself for the hit, doesn't matter if he's looking at the guy coming to hit him.
What if the guy's already?
As he's going to
what
the
if
ground,
the guy's already going to hit him?
Doesn't matter. If he's going to the ground, he's immediately defenseless, and that's, again, it's all subjective though. Because you can call it targeting on the field or not, but they can also blow it. They can also blow it dead, and the booth can review it. But there's other plays where it could be targeting. The ref doesn't call it. The booth doesn't want to review it. So guess what? It's just not targeting. David Bell got knocked out of the game against Notre Dame yesterday.
Yeah.
Got carted off the field.
Yep. Carted off.
No targeting, no
Well,
review.
and
He got knocked out. Again, how can you not? I said it before. If you are going to kick out a guy in the second half of the game for targeting, that's not actually targeting, then the guy who got hit, you should be out on protocol for concussion. You should be out the rest of the game. If you want to fix the rule, start doing that. I guarantee you're going to have some votes go the other way to get rid of targeting. Or change the way targeting is called. Because if you're going to hit a guy in the head, yet you're kicked out because you hit him in the head, yet I got hit in the head, but I can still play. Cool.
Well, and
really,
like you said in that Auburn Penn State game, that was in the second half. That guy. So now he's out for next.
And he's in tears on the sideline. Hey, he's not going in to hurt the guy. He's going in to hit him to stop him from crossing the goal line, and he did. But then he gets flagged, and then they get a first down.
Football, man.
And it was like second or third down. So it was a big play.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, talking about that Cam Jurgens penalty, where he just finished his block, and they're like, "Man, this is football." Yep. Like, if you want to do a 50th anniversary of the game of the century, go back and talk to those guys and be like, "What do you think about that?"
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "We got away with murder."
Yeah.
For nothing.
Yeah. They got away with murder 20 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago. I understand player safety, and Joel Klatt was saying the same
I know.
thing. He's like, I understand why, or Herbstreit was saying the same thing. He goes, I understand the rule, but there's a big problem with the rule when guys are not going in with intent and they're still getting kicked out of the game for something where they're leading with the shoulder and they make head-to-head contact. And it's a big problem in college football.
And we've talked about this in years past because, what was it, last year? Maybe
Probably.
Last year or the year before, we had like 3 or 4 guys get kicked out
year.
for targeting. And the thing I hate about the rule is getting kicked out of this game and having to sit out the first half of the next game that has nothing to do with this game.
Yeah, you're punishing.
It's a week apart. Why does this guy have to sit out a half of a game that has nothing to do, a play that has nothing to do with that current game?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
And during that game, sorry, we're going way off subject here, but during that game, there was at least 3 or 4 other plays where I saw the running back running the ball, and it's been called before, the running back gets hit and they call targeting, where these guys are diving head first. There was a couple plays in the Nebraska game where we had guys going head to head in contact and not a single flag. It's just extremely inconsistent, which makes it really hard as a defender to go make a hard hit because you feel like you're going to get tossed from the game.
Well, and if you don't, then you're going to get bitched at when you come to the sidelines by your coach. At least I would have when I played sports.
Which, by the way, I will say Cam Jurgens, if they would have called that a personal foul, he was ejected from the game. But instead they called it unsportsmanlike because he already had 1 personal foul.
I actually, when they called it,
I thought he was ejected.
I thought he was ejected.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be personal foul, but they called it unsportsmanlike. Which again, unsportsmanlike, dude, you got driven down the field by our center 20 yards and then tossed to the dirt, and he's getting unsportsmanlike because he played like a lineman. He did the same thing later in the game where he was blocking, and he came down and he shoved it. The guy flew like 6 yards. One of the funniest things ever. Like that dude just left his feet and went flying. It was fantastic. He didn't get a penalty on it, of course, and it was right as the whistle was blowing when he made the block. But man, Jurgens, mad respect for him. I think he had 1 snap that was a little high yesterday. We ended up getting a TD on it, I think.
Yeah.
But really, like, he's been playing fantastic.
No,
he's the heart of the offensive line.
Probably the best one there, and I know he's gotten criticized over and over for the last couple of seasons.
And we did talk last week. I want to see some nastiness from that offensive line. We saw it yesterday. Even though they were one of our weaknesses on offense. We still were able to survive for the most part with them being as bad as they were because of Adrian. But they played with more nastiness. They pancaked, they finished plays, they played through the whistle, and that was exciting to see.
Well, and I liked, and we maybe even got a penalty on defense for it, but they were playing with a chip on their shoulder, man. And they were like, and you know, like you said, maybe, you know, they were feeling that rivalry even though they never really, you know, got to see it. But we were pretty chippy on defense, and I liked it a lot. And you know, Gus Johnson's like, oh man, they're playing dirty, they're playing nasty. And I called you and I was talking to him like, that's two different things. There's playing dirty and there's playing nasty. We're not playing dirty, we're playing nasty.
Yeah.
And it just kind of made me laugh, but I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there was John before the game started. OU started coming across the midfield. They said they got all the way up to the 40 before Nebraska started chirping back, and then coaches had to get. There was a line of coaches in between them as they were trying to, and so you can tell Nebraska's not happy. These again, people are like, oh, we still lost the game. You can't, no moral victories. No, there are zero moral victories,
but
zero.
It's like a culture shift.
But we did a lot of good things. This has to be the game that gets us over that hump to play like the talent level we have on that team. This has to be that game.
And it's funny too,
the confidence level has to shoot through the roof.
Even, you know, one of my wife's friends, watching the game the last couple of weeks with her, and she's like, man, our team like seems like they like hit more and like they're stronger.
Hit hard.
Like they seem like, you know, when we had, gosh, what'd she call him? When we had the nice coach.
Oh, the nice coach, Sprinkles and ice cream coach.
It seemed like, I thought I heard like that they didn't have to like weight train and stuff. It seems like these guys are definitely like the opposite of that. I'm like, if somebody like that can say that, then there's obviously improvements being made.
Oh yeah, and I think again, you have blinders on. If you don't see it happening, you're not paying attention. They have been, again, it's a much improved, I think the culture's there, it's a much improved team. Illinois killed us. But if we played yesterday like against Illinois, if we played like that, we would have beat them by 4 or 5 touchdowns.
It's really easy to say after the fact, but you know, if we don't start the season with that Illinois game and we start that season with, you know, Fordham, Buffalo, another team, anybody that's not a Big Ten or, you know, an Oklahoma, then I think whenever we would see Illinois during the season, we would dominate.
Yeah.
Dominated. There was so much pressure going into that first game that this is such a big game. Frost has to win this game, or he's definitely on the way out. And we kind of played like it.
Not only that, but it was Illinois Super Bowl. I've seen multiple. It was Bielema and Illinois Super Bowl.
First game.
If that's the only win they have all year,
which they might have.
There's some people like, oh, we beat Nebraska. Well, that's great, but you won one game all year. And I said that they're going to maybe win 2 or 3 games this year. Maybe, and one of them is going to be against us, and that sucks. But hopefully we show that perseverance throughout the year to just be the best version of our team like we saw yesterday. Yeah, we did put up a lot of points, but we know why. We offensive line, special teams, but we know what we can do because we saw a lot of what Adrian can do again with Manning and Betts. God, man, I tell you, when we played Penn State last year and Betts came on that jet sweep and he scored, I thought he was slow as hell. I'm like, he's not going to get away from that defender. He's slow. And then
it was kind of deceivingly fast.
He's tall. He's got long legs. Every stride he takes is probably like 4 of my strides.
Probably.
Right? Like, don't laugh at that. But it's true. Like, he is
I meant for me too.
He just straight up beat that cornerback yesterday on that fly route. He just beat him. That's all on seam route. That's all he did was beat him. And that kid can fly.
It's just really a bummer. And I know injuries are part of the game, but with Urban going down, you know, Betts got dinged up last week. Allen got dinged up. We had Allen back. We had Betts back. We had Volkolek back. Manning was back. If we could just have a game with everyone, like, you know, even Fedoni, who is probably out for the season.
Yeah, he's done.
If we just had our full roster of guys healthy and the offensive line playing well, we'd be really good.
Yeah.
But obviously that's part of the game, so it is what it is.
And Ross brings up our red zone offense. Man, we talked about this before the season started and after the first couple games. Like, our red zone offense has to be better. I think just the play call, and you watch other college football teams, and I think it's one of the easiest plays to run and execute. But I don't think enough teams do it in pro or college, to where you're simply doing a fake handoff to the right and the quarterback's rolling around doing a bootleg and throwing to the tight end. As the tight end blocked, holds off his block, goes to the end zone. I mean, you see teams do that all the time, but not enough, because I would love to see it. Not necessarily, even you can do it from the 15-yard line and still get 5, 6, 7 yards. But those bootleg plays are easy to run because they're, especially your team that likes to run the ball. I mean, it confuses the defense. They're expecting something, and you throw them off with a bootleg. Or
you got a quarterback like Martinez too. If the play breaks down, or if there's nobody there, he can run.
He can scramble and run. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think our red zone. I would love to see some improvement in the red zone offense. 100%.
He said he was going to chime in at some point.
The first year open.
Those are hard to open, bud.
So by the way, we are drinking some more.
Yes.
Some more Zip Lime, dear old Nebraska brew. We had to get it
They're
today.
Fantastic.
This is really good. I could drink this every show.
Yeah, for sure. It's not cheap.
Really, RPO, the strong side, the best option. Man, you know what I was really hoping to see yesterday, Ross, and others watching? I was really hoping to see some option. We ran it once.
We ran to the short side.
We ran to the short side for like 1 yard, maybe. And it had to be a keeper, but I was hoping to see maybe some wishbone. I was hoping to see some I formation. I was hoping to go back 20 or 50 years.
I saw somebody tweet out, Nebraska's going to show up in the wishbone tomorrow and win 7-5.
I got it. If they showed up in the wishbone or ran more I formation or option, you would have been like, what the hell is this?
I think it was Auburn lined up in the I early in the game against Penn State. And they were like, man, look at this. They're lined up in the eye. How often do you see that? And I'm like, why can't we line up in the eye?
Yeah, it was them or Penn. One of the teams did it down on the goal line. And I'm like, that's fantastic. It was great.
I know a lot of people on Twitter, especially, are like, bring the fullback position back, man.
Yeah.
And go under center and run the eye.
Yep. Hate running the option to the short side. Ross,
I hate running the option to the short side.
We've done it so much over the years when we run the option to the short side. It drives me absolutely insane. The only times that works is when you're playing Xbox and you run the option.
And even then, I would,
and it really works.
I would never run to the short side. I always run the far side, even if you got to pitch left.
Yep. Yeah, I think in Yant, and we talked about this with character. You have Yant in at fullback, leading with Johnson or
we talked about this. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Yant's a big dude. What did I say he was? Like 245.
And they kept showing him on the sidelines, and I'm like,
huge.
Is he gonna play?
He's huge. What's nice about, and let's go back to the running back position. Gabe Urban played 4 games. He's out for the rest of the year. Gets the red shirt, which is good. That's really good for him. So.
And that's really good for him because he got his feet wet and he was pretty good. Obviously, he got his first true freshman starting running back. And he scored a couple touchdowns last week, so
that run yesterday, that would have been a first down.
Oh,
But he popped that knee and just fell.
And just fell.
Luckily, he didn't actually fumble it. He was down, but man, like that would have been a first.
He may have fumbled
his butt was down. He still had possession, but that would have been a first down. He was coming one-on-one, and he would have drove him back at least half the yard. It was gonna be what we needed, but unfortunately, yes, I would love to see Ant in there.
Okay, thanks, Ross.
Blocking assignments on pass blocking.
Yeah,
and that's fine. He's still a freshman.
Well, he was a walk-on scholarship player, or still walk-on. I don't know. Either way, that's good to know. But we can still get the ball in his hands,
Yeah.
Running the ball. If he's not a good blocker, maybe he needs some time to figure out that playbook and those blocking assignments, whatever. Do your homework, bud.
Ramir Johnson actually did really good on pass blocking yesterday.
He was good. And maybe that's why he got the start.
Again, and a couple people commented on that too. People are mad that we didn't see Sevion more, that we saw Ramir Johnson all game, and we didn't see Step. Again, don't know the issue on Step. But
you don't know everything. And you don't know who the best pass blocker is or what their game plan is. If they're going to be passing the ball more and they need somebody stepping up to.
And let's talk real quick about Manning, Betts, Wyatt Lieber, Levi Falk. So they have Levi Falk on the Unfiltered podcast with Martinez, Athletes Unfiltered podcast, which is great, by the way, because they bring on their teammates. And they talked to Levi Falk, and he's like, man, Husker fans don't like me on Twitter. Because they're like, why is Levi in the game when Manning or Betts is on the sideline? Like, that's what they're saying. But again, so they look at social media and they talk to the players like, what do you think about this comment? And it's hilarious. And so
that's interesting.
So Levi's like, people don't like me, Husker Nation. Apparently, they don't want me on the field.
He had a big catch yesterday.
But he did. But here's a couple things about that. We don't know everything. We're not at practice. We don't know what Betts and Manning are doing at practice. We don't know if they're missing practice, which was word in the first couple games. They have missed a couple practices. They don't know the playbook. The flip side is run what they do now. Get them on, and maybe that's what we've been doing. Yeah. Betts, you can run a seam route or a fly route down the sideline. Absolutely, I'm gonna throw you the ball.
Yeah.
Betts or Manny, you can run a cross route to the end zone across the middle of the field. We're gonna get you the ball. If that's what they know, we're gonna do it. Levi Falk, Wyatt Lever, they are both good wide receivers.
And they might have more knowledge of playbook, blocking assignments, again, and whatever.
Yeah.
That's funny though. That's really.
But that's what social media has kind of ruined the landscape of college football, because these players see it, and we talked about it with Brandon Kinney before. They see what these guys are saying.
He said. What he said?
He said it ruined his confidence.
Twitter just kind of started toward the end of his.
Yeah. Facebook started it. Facebook was there for a little while before Twitter started, and.
Yeah, man. I mean, those guys in the '90s and stuff. They just. I mean, I know they'd watch ESPN and stuff, and they just pimp out Peyton Manning. So Jason Peters like, we're gonna effing kill him, and that because that's all they would show on SportsCenter. They'd win a game and they'd go back to the hotel and they'd be on the road and they'd just see them showing highlights of Peyton Manning, and he's like, we're playing him, we're gonna kill him.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of those things where
and you're not reading comments on Twitter.
Yeah, so it changes the game. But if you think Levi Falk and Wyatt Lever don't believe to be out on the field, I strongly disagree with you, because clearly they're doing something right on the field and in practice and the locker room to earn their starting position. And not to say that Manning and Betts maybe aren't better.
Probably are, but
there's so much more that goes on with starting than just being
that's not just it. You got to know what you're doing. You got to be able to block. Not saying that those guys can't.
Yep.
But there's a lot that goes into it, and I know Manning's had some mental health issues, and from what I've heard, Betts is not necessarily the brightest kid.
I think
he's very athletic.
I think it was Damon Benning who mentioned he does have a learning disability.
I think
not a shot at his actual mental capability, but like a literal learning disability. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not trying to start a rumor. That's just what I think I saw. I thought it was Damon Benning post that, or Mikkel Severe. One of those guys did. And again, he's still a great athlete. So is Manning. So we need to get them, I think, more involved. I will agree with that. But to say Lever and Falk don't deserve to be out there is just not true. They wouldn't be playing if they didn't deserve it. We played Cade Warner because he could block.
Haven't both those guys earned scholarships? And Cade Warner was a captain, and then he left.
Being a captain and being a starter is way more than about maybe being the best player. You're still a good player, and you can make plays. You're probably also a leader on the team.
You can also are probably trying to help teach those guys.
Yeah, teach them the playbook.
Like, hey man, you might be a little better than me, but you're a little behind. Let me help.
You need to catch up a little bit. So that could be happening.
And you know, that's really tough to say that that's going on at college level.
Because we don't know.
But that'd be really, you know, and it's essentially helping someone take your job. But
by the way,
help your team win, gosh, that's what I would do.
And by the way, Trev Alberts, Scott Frost, anybody else in the athletic organization want to invite us to a practice, we'll gladly sit down and tell people what's going on.
Yeah.
We'll come.
It's fine.
Okay, I'll take a day off of work, whatever. But again, yesterday was just one of those games where we exceeded the entire nation's expectations, including all of Husker Nation. Majority of Husker Nation thought we were going to get destroyed.
Yeah.
Thought we had no chance of even coming close to winning that game. I'm glad that we showed up, that we played a good game. You take away special teams, and we potentially win that game. Offensive line aside, offensive line didn't play great. Even with the offensive line, the special teams, as Joe Platt and other people said, is the reason why we lost that game.
And I know their All-American kicker missed a 54-yarder, but anyway, what I thought was funny was a lot of things I saw before, all week leading up to the game was Nebraska has to play a clean, almost perfect game to have a chance.
Yeah.
And guess what? We did not play a clean, perfect game, and we had a chance.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that Joni said here, like we played so much better than what she thought, and
agreed.
People aren't accepting that on. Again, it's social media is what it is, but that's the worst part of Husker football is social media. But people aren't accepting that. And Adrian Martinez after the game, he said, "We're not up for moral victories. We're mad.
Yeah.
We should have won that game. We could have won that game. We didn't win that game. We're mad." He's mad. So to say the players don't care is one thing. If the fans are just happy that we showed improvement. That's good. We should be happy because we showed improvement. No, we didn't win the game. The players are way more pissed off than Husker Nation is.
Yeah.
Way more pissed off.
Well,
Scott Frost is way more pissed off.
What's funny is, I said after the game, I go, that was almost worse than us getting, like the feeling I have is almost worse than if we got beat by 40 or 24, whatever the spread was. 22 and a half.
And a lot of people would have been happy because that was their expectation.
And it's like, if we would have gotten beat the way that people expected us to, I would have just been like, yeah, well, that was what I was expecting. It almost hurt more because we were there and we had a chance. And probably, I'd say could have, maybe not should have, could have won the game. And that stung more.
Yeah.
But that also shows that we've made improvements to the point where we didn't just lose and it was just okay.
Yeah, 100%.
It was, we
100%.
lost, we were right there, and now I'm pissed.
100%. And as Nathan said here, that as a Husker fan, it's pretty tough, but the local media really does drive that negative. They drive it. They really do.
And I listen to it.
They really do. Tom Chattel, Sam McEwen, Sip, Husker Sip. Parker Gabriel I actually like. I think Sip runs like the Husker Extra. I think he writes most of the articles. I don't think Parker does a whole lot.
Parker works for.
But Sipple, my God, he is. And I've talked crap about him before. He's such a 50-50 guy. He praises things going on, and then he'll throw in a little tidbit about like a stat that is so negative. And then again, it's part of his job. Is to point out things that aren't going well, but our local media is, I think, just awful.
I do like listening to Michael Severe and Damon Benning in the morning because they give it to you straight and they're not super negative. Damon has really good points. He's really good to listen to.
Former football player. I'm guessing we're talking about Parker and
yeah,
Callahan.
we did an interview.
Callahan does a good job.
We did an interview with Carricker. He gives it to you straight, but he's also like, we're close. Like, we're there. I think we're about to make a change. They're about to turn things around. And then some of these guys it's like they talk the negative because that gets the most reaction.
Yeah.
And so it's like their job to bring the negative out, and then that kind of stirs everybody. And that just gets that negative vibe around, and it's hard. But
see, I love Joni. Joni, I don't know if you write for the World Herald, but maybe you need to. So she says we just need to refocus this week at practice, go back out there next Saturday, do what we did against the Sooners. We can and we will win. We have to just not make mistakes that hurt us. Joni, I've seen you on the show a couple times here. I appreciate your positive attitude. We're positive people. I believe what you're saying, and I think that we can do a lot of really good things here the rest of the year. Michigan State's going to be a big challenge, but after what I saw yesterday, we got to be careful here. After what I saw yesterday, we got a chance.
Yeah.
And let's go beat Mel Tucker. Man, he beat us in Colorado. Let's go beat him. I don't want to lose to him again. So Sean Callahan, I think, does a great job. Again, when he throws out any bad stuff, it's not like he's bashing the team. He's throwing out facts. He doesn't throw out negativity. He throws out facts, and that's what I like to see. I could talk Husker football all day, guys. This is just, oh man, yesterday was just it was heartbreaking because we should have won the game. We could have won the game. If we would have beat the number, so the last time we played that well against a top 5 team in the country was Adrian's freshman year against Ohio State. We lost by 5.
35-30 on the road.
We lost by 5, and we had to come back, but we still lost by 5 points. When was the last time we played that well against the top team in the country? Every other time we play Ohio State or top team in the country, we get smoked.
Yep.
We got smoked when we were with Mike Riley. We got smoked when we were with Bo. We stood with a top 5 team. Again, you can argue that OU's not a top 5 team, but their ranking shows they are,
because they're going to be playing a Big 12 schedule.
Yeah.
And Iowa State's not nearly as good as people thought. Texas is obviously not nearly as good as people were expecting. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, West Virginia beat number 15 Virginia Tech yesterday. They could be a Big 12 team.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
I thought Bob Tech was going to be really good. And Clemson struggled with Georgia Tech. They had to make a goal line stop to win that game.
Yep.
I mean, Georgia Tech, and you know what Dabo said after the game? Georgia Tech lined up in a way we didn't know they were going to line up. Georgia Tech's been the same offense for how many years?
Yeah.
And they didn't expect that? Like, are you kidding me? Nathan said, important question. Or, sorry, Mel Tucker's the kind of guy that steals ice cream from a baby. Blame the baby for not having his favorite flavor. Oh, Ross, I love you on the show. Nathan says, important question. How does the team respond in your view?
I think the team comes out real strong next week.
That is an extremely important question because it's going to, I think, set the tone for the rest of the season.
It is. And if we come out playing as well as we did on defense, better on offense, we get up early, stay up, maybe run away with it, whatever. We win that game on the road against a Michigan State team that I'm sure is ranked at this point, or if they're not, they will be.
They're 3, yeah,
that could be a big step in the right direction for the rest of the season. And that's what I hope happens.
And it was interesting because Joel Klatt said yesterday that Nebraska's going to win one big game towards the end of the year. We're going to beat Michigan, we're going to beat Ohio State, we're going to beat Iowa, or we're going to beat Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think we will.
I think we might even win.
2 of those games.
We might win 2 of those games because but next week's going to really set that tone. How do we respond? I think yesterday.
We have to win the next 2 weeks against Michigan State Northwestern.
The team is mad because they should have won that game.
Mm-hmm.
Because of
and we should have won by 40 plus against Buffalo.
Yeah, because of that anger, I think they're going to come out next week with that fire, the same fire we did. I think our defense is going to be stellar again. I think we're going to get some turnovers against Michigan State. I think our offensive line, man, if they don't get a kick in the keister, then we got problems with our offensive line coach.
Well, yeah, that may be the case.
Greg Austin may be the problem.
Be the first one on his way out.
I don't know, but Wisconsin and Iowa are definitely beatable.
Wisconsin is.
Iowa's a good team, no doubt, but we don't want to lose 7 times in a row.
Yeah,
we don't.
Sure.
We don't. So we gotta start it next week. Next week has to be that. Turn the key, start the engine.
I feel
not
like
start the engine, keep it revving to get that game Northwestern and Michigan 3 in a row.
I feel like in years past, a game like this on the road against a top team, and you get blown out, that kind of sucks your soul out a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you come back the next week and your heart's not necessarily all there.
Yeah.
A game like this, I think, just motivates you even more. And it's like, we can do this.
Yeah.
Michigan State, we're going to beat Michigan State after we hung with Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's my hope.
Well, a lot of talk around the Big Ten is defense. Defense.
Yeah.
You don't have to score a lot of points in the Big Ten. Ohio State's kind of that outlier that tends up scoring more points, but they tend to generally have a decent defense. Their defense is not very good. Wasn't very good last year. It's not very good this year compared to their offense.
And we get them at home.
So I'm curious to see what that happens. But our defense, our black shirt defense is showing that they're a Big Ten defense, and that is what kept us in the game yesterday. It's kept us in every game that we played for a long time now, including last year. That's going to give us that opportunity. We need to get just that 1 or 2 turnovers a game, start stripping the ball, get those interceptions. Braxton Clark, man, that was a great play.
Doman had a chance. Reimer had a chance. Clark's was the biggest chance.
We haven't talked about Reimer. Reimer played great too.
And Doman balled out too. And
his
we know he's probably my favorite player on the team. but he had a whole bunch of tackles. He was all over
This
the place.
defense is going to win us games down the stretch with our offense still scoring enough points to win the game.
I like what Ross said. I love when we send our defense out there first. I want to kick the ball off every game to start the game.
Every game.
Because we've showed that we've been pretty good, and then getting that ball to start the second half, it's just, I mean, especially if you can get some points at the end of the first half, that just can swing a game, in my opinion. You can, and I know we didn't get a stop. They went on a 7-minute touchdown drive, but
it took
we
7
set
minutes.
the tone early. And we made them earn it. Like I said, I want to kick the ball off every game. Make sure we get the ball to start the second half. I'm all in.
Yep, I'm with you. Man, again, I could talk for another hour, guys, but I think we got to get going. We appreciate your time today. Check us out. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube.
We're positive
Follow
on
us.
Twitter.
We are.
For the most part.
Sometimes it makes some jabs at people. I'm the one that runs the Twitter account, so sometimes I make jabs. But, you know, we enjoy following and listening to what Husker Nation has to say. So appreciate everything you guys brought today. 86 comments. Well, again, we lost, so we're probably going to have like 7,000 views today. But
I think people are positive.
What's most important is you guys have fun on the show. We enjoyed it today. Again, check out some Zipline Nebraska Brewery.
It's really good.
They're not sponsoring us, but hopefully soon we'll see what happens there.
Let's kick Michigan State's butt next week.
Let's go and go out of Michigan State, come out strong. We'll see you next week for sure. Enjoy your day. I'm going to play that Johnny Rogers clip one more time to end the show. You guys enjoy your Sunday. Have a good week, and we will see you next week. Go Big Red.
See you next week.